What's going on, Eagles Nation? This is your boy, AK Eagles, and I am here with another episode of the Eagles Uncensored podcast. And I am here with a really close friend of mine, Hunter Doyle. Hunter, please introduce yourself and let these people know what you do and where they can find you, my guy.
Hey, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love talking birds all the time. You guys can see my channels right there at the top of the comments, Philly Insider Podcast. You can find me there. I'll be doing, regular Eagles content. Hopefully, I'll be doing some more film breakdowns this season if I get around to it. And you can also find me on InsideTheEagles.com, doing some articles and stuff on there too. So appreciate you having me on, man. You're one of the newer channels I believe that I've come in contact with recently. So 126 subs already, man. Hey, congrats. Good to see that. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's cool to see.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
126 subs in 1 month. I'm blessed. Had a lot of people behind me. You're even one of them.
of
You're
course.
my silent one. For the most part, you're a very busy human being, and I understand that. So I appreciate you taking time away and being here
Of
with me, man.
course. I'm glad to be here, man. Let's get into it.
Yo, what's good, Richie Mac? How you doing, my guy? Thank you for coming in. Jordy Fighter, Big Play Slay. Philly repping. How's it going, dude? Philly girl, always here like normal. How you doing? Thank you for coming in. Listen, man, I am so excited for this upcoming season. You know,
Hmm.
super stoked. I don't even want to talk about the past anymore. I'm ready to look into the future,
Right.
and that's what we're here to talk about today. And you're very knowledgeable about the Eagles just like I am. So I am very excited to have this conversation with you today, dude. We were talking a little bit backstage, so it's good.
Yes, sir.
You know, so first off, man, I start this question out with everyone that I go with the first time. What made you an Eagles fan, man?
Yeah, great question, man. So I grew up kind of like 45 minutes from Philadelphia, but I went to school over kind of like my address was technically Philly. It's the suburb, just not center city, or it's like right outside of Northeast Philly, but we're right on the border. So I went to school around there. Obviously going there, I had people from my area, but also people in the opposite direction in Center City coming to my school. So, going to my school, it's also my church. Like everyone showing up to school or church with their Eagles jerseys on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the time. Like it's just the thing. It's just the culture thing here. And as a kid, I just kind of embraced it. I remember I got my first Eagles jersey was Donovan McNabb, and I remember the first season I remember watching as a kid was when we had Jeff Garcia take over. He's our baby with Dante Stallworth back then. So that season was
Yeah.
like the first season I watched Eagles football, and seeing them rally and the fans rally, like as a kid being from Philadelphia, I just bought in. Like I bought into them. I bought into the Phillies. I bought into the Sixers, like everyone. So ever since then, I've just been a diehard Eagles fan. Year after year, like me and my dad watch every Eagles game together, except now I'm in college, so I'm away during football season, which sucks. But 2 years ago, when I came back home, my first game back home from break, me and him went to see Eagles Cowboys Week 16 of the 2019 season, where we had the practice squad troops out there and we took them down. So that was really special. But yeah, it's just been a thing. Me and my dad have been invested in ever. I mean, my whole family has been, but me and my dad are definitely the big Eagles fans. We didn't really have like a long legacy, I would say, of Eagles fans in our family, but we've kind of started it. So yeah, ever since then, I've been a diehard fan.
For sure, man. It's definitely in the blood.
Yeah,
Like there's
facts.
there's no doubt about it. Yo, welcome, Brenda Cox. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Lucas Holloman says, "What's up, Hunter?"
Yes. What's
Thank
going
you,
on, man?
Lucas, for coming in. Prime time, Stephen Joyce, my guy, as always. Welcome. We got three people in here. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, turn your notification bell on, so you know when I go live or drop some new content. So appreciate everyone for being here today. Thank you. Um, so that would lead me into my next one, and you probably just mentioned it a minute ago. But who's your favorite Eagle of all time?
It's got to be Dawkins. It's got to be Dawkins. I mean, I know that's a basic answer, but like Dawkins is the guy, Weapon X. Just seeing him, I remember playing Madden with him as a kid, and I would always user him on, even though I didn't know how to play Madden at a young age. Like always usered him, always got pick sixes and like fumble returns with him. And yeah, watching him on the field, it's just like it made me want to go out there. Unfortunately, I was too young to really fathom the Alge Crumpler hit and all that. But I got to kind of see the back end of his Eagles career as a kid. And even that, like I bought on eBay for like $20. I bought a blue and yellow Dawkins jersey at one point because I just loved him so much. So Dawkins is my guy. Other than that, I mean, on basic answer, I mean, Dante Stallworth was as a kid. I know he only played one season here, but I adored watching him play. I mean, he was the man that year. So
I know, man. I had to shed a tear a little bit whenever I sent Joey my Dawkins jersey.
oh, who's yours?
Yeah. Well, my all-time favorite is Randall Cunningham, man. Hands down, I enjoyed watching that man play football.
I wish I
That
could have
was
seen him
definitely
play.
my childhood, dude. Yeah. Yeah, I'm 33. I'm a little bit older, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, he was definitely really awesome to watch. So,
Yeah.
he's truly what made me start to be an Eagle fan for sure,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Brian Dawkins is my all-time favorite defensive player.
Yes,
Reggie
sir.
White is definitely a hard first there too. Like they both kind of are, you know. But
Reggie's
yeah,
Reggie. I mean,
Brian
minister of
Dawkins
defense,
has to be it.
Yeah.
I've watched that man lay out a lot of people in my day.
I do remember kind of the Packers hit. I think it was I forget if it was the Packers or someone else where I think it was Takeo Spikes. They have that like interview of him. He said, I'm gonna end this man or something like that. And then he went over and he did right on it was a sideline catch. I remember it. And he lit that man up.
Yeah. No, man, there was some times I watched him hit somebody and I was like, bro, just stay down. If you know what's best for you, just stay down.
Yeah, honestly.
There was a lot of power in that little man, for
Yeah.
sure.
For real.
So that leads me into this question now, my guy. Before we even start talking about this roster, the one thing that bugs me the most and has been bugging us a lot the last couple of years, and we've all kind of spent ourselves going crazy thinking about it. This injury bug. Do you think this is our year that we kick this man?
Oh, I really hope so. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure what to blame it on. Like, is it the medical staff? Is it just the fact that we've had so many aging veterans in here? I mean, last year, I think everyone kind of had the injury bug, so I kind of give it a little bit of a pass. But at the same time, we still had an astronomical amount of injuries last year. So I think this can be the year. I think we're a very young team right now, and I think something with the Eagles last year was too like with Jack Driscoll. It's like he wasn't an injury-prone guy too much in college, but when he gets to the NFL, obviously facing bigger talent and all that, he did pretty well. But there's a difference between facing athletes at the college level, obviously, versus the NFL level, and that can lead to some more injuries at times with guys because they just haven't taken that level of impact or that level of hit yet. So I think some of those guys progressing this year, being ready for that contact. I think maybe some of the older guys not being re-signed this past year and all that. That last year they even tried to bring in like Will Parks and Roby Coleman, but Will Parks didn't play a ton. Roby Coleman didn't play well. Those are two guys who, yes, I mean, they've been able to stay on the field throughout their careers, but they didn't really end up making an impact. And I think another thing too is like with the rookies this year, I think we have to remember a lot of them opted out. Like Kenny Gainwell opted out. Maybe he might have some struggles coming back after not playing in a whole year. Like I think there might be some injury problems with the younger guys, but I think we can start to move past it this year just with some of the guys we have. I mean, Jalen Hurts hasn't been an injury-prone guy in his career very often. I mean, even with him running the ball a lot, knock on wood. Even with him running the ball a lot, he's very smart when he's about to take a hit. Like he's not a guy who's going to go out there and put his body at risk, which I think Wentz did a lot of sometimes and ended up costing him a little bit. But I think it's going to be a good year. I mean, I think we've got a lot of nice pieces in the building in terms of guys staying healthy and injuries and all of that. And yeah, I'm interested. What's your take, man? What do you think? You think this is finally the year?
Yeah. Coach Dante, appreciate you for joining, my guy, and everything
Coach
you do
Dante.
for us Eagle content creators, man. You're a big supporter of ours, so appreciate you, my guy. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, man, I put a lot of thought into this the last couple of days, and I actually brought it up 2 nights ago. When you look at Nick Sirianni's last press conference before the break, they asked him, they were like, "Hey, whenever you do practices this year, are you going to have padded practices?" And he's like, "Yes, that's how football is played. That's how we're going
Yeah.
to practice it. We're going to have full pads. We're going to have full contact, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, and that got me thinking. Doug liked to do a lot of mental walkthroughs,
Yep.
not a lot of contact.
Hmm.
Well, did that make our players more vulnerable? Because I played football.
Right.
We had two-a-days back in the day. We played out in 100-degree weather. I had my time puking,
Right.
but we always kept going. We always kept beating the shit out of each other, which in the
Hmm.
end made us stronger. We were able to take those hits. And
Right.
in my eyes, if you just did walkthroughs, which, yeah, mentally that's good, but physically, that might have been why. We might have made ourselves pussyish, so to speak, because we weren't
Hmm.
taking those hits. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's something I kind of thought about, and that's something that I'm hoping changes. So we'll see. But that was my general thought of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So so yeah. So before we get into this rookie class here, there's some people that not a lot of people talk about right now, out of this rookie class. So real quick on just like our low end rookies here, like Tula Tuipulotu, I think that's how you say that, right? Close
Yep.
enough,
Hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
And like Johnson, and Stevens is still there. I believe Stevens has a really good chance to make this team and be an impact
Definitely.
player. But we'll even leave him there for the moment. Like, what do you see from these three, if anything? Like for instance, does Jackson and Johnson even make this team in your eyes?
Great question. I'll start with Johnson because I actually got to interview Johnson before the draft process, which was really cool. And obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I did really enjoy talking to him. But I've watched a little bit of his tape at Tulane. He was very versatile. Like I saw him. Obviously, his main role was kind of stand up rusher, but he also shifted to the interior at times. He would just rush off the edge with his hands in the dirt. So he can get it done in a lot of different ways. I even saw him at one point go out to the boundary and cover Kenny Gainwell when he motioned out of the backfield. And it was a screenplay to Kenny Gainwell out wide, and Patrick Johnson was right there and blew him up. So that athleticism is very telling of kind of the player Patrick Johnson is. I think I was reading that they're probably going to implement a stand-up rusher role, and I was talking to Gate City Sports about this. So they have Kerrigan, who's obviously played in that stand-up role before. They have Avery, who played in it more in Cleveland and never really meshed with Jim Schwartz defense very well, and they have Johnson, who's done it too. So I think he could possibly make the roster and have that role because he's also a guy who's like very passionate about special teams. His teammates and coaches praised him about his football IQ in the film room. Like they would use his notes from film study for the entire defense, which I think is a very, very strong sign to just, kind of commend him on just the work he's done and the intelligence that he has as a football player. So I think he has a really strong chance of making the roster. Taron Jackson, I also really like. He's a guy who I think he's very good at beating offensive tackles inside, whether it's the swim move or something like that, just getting his hands inside the chest and all that. I think he's very technically sound. Yeah. Oh, gotta love that comment. But I think Taron Jackson, like he's an athletic guy. Obviously, he's kind of on the map because of Coastal Carolina, so you have to wonder how he's going to do against high level talent. But I think he's a guy also. I think he could take that fifth DN spot because obviously you have Sweat, Barnett, Graham, and then Kerrigan, I guess, if you want to consider him. I would say he'd probably be listed as a DN on the roster. And then you'll probably keep one more, or you'll keep one more D tackle who's kind of versatile. But it's kind of between him. There's Jaquan Bailey, Matt Leo, Joe Osman, a lot of guys who are unknown. So I think Taron Jackson has a pretty good shot of beating them out, especially since he was drafted this year. And I think, I think I really like his chances. He's got an inspiring story. Like if you give him maybe like 2-3 preseasons these next upcoming years to maybe get some things figured out and just kind of get used to the NFL level play, maybe down the road, like year 3 or 4, he could be a good rotational guy. And then I think talking about the other two guys you mentioned, so Tuipulotu, I think I could see him probably not making the roster, but I think you could see him elevated from the practice squad at some point because I don't know if anyone remembers Anthony Rush from a couple years ago. I think it was 2019. He was last on the team. He was like 350 pounds, and he was just kind of guy who he was just in there to run stuff, right, on the interior, kind of play that nose tackle kind of position. I think Tui Pelotu will kind of be like that. Like, he's a guy who can just fill his gap. Not much of a pass rusher, but maybe he can develop that along the way. And then I think Stevens, like you said, I think he has a really good chance to make the roster because I think Stevens has that like box safety versatility. Obviously, he's listed as a linebacker, so we'll see if he's used there more. And the linebacker position is a big question mark. So if he's listed there, there's a good chance he could beat someone out for a roster spot. And I think he kind of played a Malcolm Jenkins type role at LSU. Like he played in the slot. We saw him in the box. We saw him play back deep. Like he's a versatile guy. And I know my guy Philly the podcast interviewed him, who we're both close with. I mean, he's a guy, he can do a lot on the football field, and that's going to help him, especially when it comes to making a roster spot. So, it is crowded in the linebacker and safety room, but I think all four of these guys, including him, like I think just because of what they bring to the table on just their versatility, especially, some of these guys with their special teams versatility, specifically with Johnson and Stevens, I think it's going to really help them in terms of earning a roster spot. So what's your take on that? Like, what do you think about these four guys we're talking about right now?
No, I do agree with you. I mean, like I said, the one out of all of them that I see being a very big part of this future going forward is definitely Stevenson. Like Jacoby Stevenson, to me, by far out of the lower end of the draft, will probably be the dark horse out of all these guys,
Definitely.
So, I mean, I really like Stevens. Tua Pelutu, he's probably going to be, like you said, a practice squad member right from the start, see if we can improve him, but he'll probably step up later on, maybe due to injuries or something like that.
Right.
And Jackson, I'm not that familiar with. So, you hit that one. So I won't even touch that one because, like I said, not familiar with. And
Gotcha.
Johnson, yeah, that still is remain to be seen,
Right.
The potential's there, but,
right.
That's been our biggest weakness lately is developing players. So hopefully now we'll see if JG and his coaching staff can develop players. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think you look at kind of defensive coaching staff from the past few years, and I don't want to slight Jim Schwartz because I think there were a lot of times he really stepped up in big moments and dialed it up. But, I think there's some players like obviously Rasul Douglas is a player who I think the fan base was kind of split on. I don't want to say he wasn't used to his strengths, but at the same time, I think Carolina was definitely a scheme that fit him better. So I think it's like you said, like we haven't done a good job developing players, and at the same time, I don't think we've done a good job of like drafting players who fit what we're looking to do as well. Because obviously this year, like Sirianni is going to be multiple and all that, but there's still guys like specific kind of play styles and skill sets you want to ideally have to fit into your both sides of the ball. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and I know you watch my videos and you've probably heard me say it before, but that's kind of my problem with our drafting personality and how we go about doing it is I'm so tired of hopes and I just want definites. Like DK was a definite, JJ was a hope, Rager's a hope, Jefferson was a definite, and it's like I'm just draft the definites. Like. And now granted, I'm not as mad as the Rager draft pick because you know what, Rager's still, the potential's there. He kind of showed the flashes last year. It is what it is. I know some people already think he's bust, but that still is up in the air. That's remained to be seen. We'll see what happens once Nick gets his hands on him,
Exactly.
But and he's in his natural position playing in the slot this year, which should help him out. So we'll see. I expect 800 plus yards from this kid this year. So we'll see.
I'm really excited to see what Rager can do because I think, like you said, we saw the flashes. I think a big thing with him in the Big 12, I think Jason Avant mentioned this, but it's so true, is that all those guys are giving him cushion. Like the defenses in the Big 12 is not what that conference is known for, obviously. So especially this year, he faced a lot of press coverage. He learned kind of the hand techniques of how to swipe away when they get in his chest. Because a lot of times they would just get in his chest and force him to the sideline. And then he would, and also, I mean, to that point too, a lot of times he get forced to the sideline because Doug would just send him deep a lot of the time rather than, kind of using him on those yards after catch type routes. And I think, like you said, he's going to play in the slot. I think he's going to play that Z position and kind of like flanked off the line of scrimmage just so that he doesn't have to face as much press coverage. And I think just having Devontae as the first read type of guy, or just like to have him as a decoy to go deep and take away some defenders with him, I think is going to help Rager a ton.
Definitely. I 100% agree with you, man. And I hope to God that this is Fulgham's breakout year as well. I have high expectations for him. I know that there was a lot of people out there that are questioning his work ethic right now. But, and I do not excuse it if this is what the reason was, but this is the way I look at it. You had 5 weeks where he was leading the NFL in receiving. And then you rip this kid out for a busted ass Alshon Jeffrey. And we all know that was all money. That was nothing to do with production. That was nothing to do with he's better. That was nothing to do with he's faster. That was literally because you paid the man $20 million. That is all that was about.
Right.
So when you pull him and you put Alshon in, and then something happens to Alshon and you have to put him back in and you don't get that production from this kid, well, no shit. Not only did you break his trust, but he's not going to want to play for you again, because if Alshon gets healthy, all you're going to do is just pull him right back out. You know what I mean? So I get it. Now, granted, that's the bad way of doing business. Like, he should have still kept going 100%. But I do get the mentality behind it. Why try for somebody if you're going to get pulled for doing good things? So I get that. So hopefully he silences those critics this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Travis play. I have heard the reports of he's a guy who definitely kind of needs to be pushed a little bit, but I think we have a coaching staff who's going to do that. I think Aaron Moorhead has done that. I think he's going to continue to do that. Yeah. Keep in mind, like, Aaron Moorhead had a very young group last year, and I think the progress that Rager made, even if it didn't show up in the numbers, like the progress that Fulgham made. I mean, Fulgham was an unknown. I don't think anyone had him on their list coming into the year, and like just even like Quez contributing at the end of the year. And Hightower had his issues, but the fact that Hightower came on the field and even made some plays in his rookie year where the offseason was cut short, I think is a testament to the work that Aaron Moorhead did. So I'm excited to see what Fulgham can do, especially, I mean, Fulgham, I don't even feel like that a lot of times he wasn't even used to his full potential when he's on the field. And, when Alshon came back, snap count keeps decreasing. And, I don't know why Alshon's great for like, the contested catch type stuff. Like, I think he can still be a good red zone guy, but he's just not. He's so slow that he's not really, like, even early in his career, he was able to use kind of his size to kind of route run and his technique, but he had some speed on him. Like, even a few years ago, he had some speed, but now with the injuries, now that he's older, like, I don't know why they obviously it was money, but like, I just don't get Fulgham not playing down the stretch of a year where we've won 3.5 games most of the year. And, it's a whole thing. So I'm excited to see him play. I think that he's not going to be expected to be the star receiver either. I think he's going to get matchups with number 2, number 3 corners a lot of the time. Because, Bradbury to his credit kind of adjusted the second time they played. And even the first time, it wasn't even like Fulgham was destroying Bradbury. It was just Fulgham was taking advantage of zone, taking advantage of his matchups and everything. But I think they, coming off a full year, he's got some film to work on and some things to adjust with. I think he's going to be ready to come back and at least contribute in some fashion.
Now, before I let you answer this question, because you're more inclined to answer this than I am, I want to bring that up. Now, if these comments about Fulgham are true and he is a half-ass worker and he is lazy, I've been saying it. I have Watkins as my dark horse to take his spot. Because we've seen the videos, we've seen the work he's put in. He's a very quick person. Yeah, the height might not be there, but you know what? Height isn't everything. It's fighting the dog. So, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think you look at, well, obviously Nick Sirianni said with the wide receivers, like, they're not going to be limited to one of the 3 spots, right? So you're going to have all 3. I don't think everyone's going to play every spot. I think guys are going to kind of specialize. So Devontae, I think, is going to play all three because I think even though he might not be your typical like big receiver, there's a lot of guys in the league who aren't as that big and they play the X position. So I think you're going to see him.
Yeah.
He's going to play all over. Like they're going to put him wherever they need him. And then I think you're going to have Rager. I think Rager will play all three. I think he'll play the slot a little bit more. I think he'll play the Z and play off the line a little bit more. And yeah, if Fulgham's not the guy, I mean, I think Quez really fits in well because you have two other guys who are starting there who you can kind of rotate around if you need to because they all like. I think the thing with J-Jaw too was that there was complaints about him getting cross-trained his rookie year. And to people's credit, I think he should have probably focused solely on the X position because I think that fits his strengths best. I think he's also a decent big body slot type of guy, but he couldn't really handle that. And I think Rager, at least we were able to see him kind of handle all three roles pretty well and run routes pretty well out of all three spots. So I think with him and Devontae there, and even if one of them has to come off the field, I think you have other guys who can fit in a couple other spots. I think Watkins can slide in to where he's most comfortable and to where he's going to benefit the most. I think he's another guy like you can use him on tunnel screens. You can use him on the jet sweep. You can use him on a lot of those like gadget types of plays where you just get the ball in his hands and let him run. I mean, that screenplay that against Arizona that he scored on last year, like that was a busted play, but he spun around and took it 15 yards for a touchdown. Like he's got that ability in him. So I'd also like to see him maybe if he can return punts or kicks this year too, because I don't want to see another year of Greg Ward or Boston Scott returning punts back there or kicks.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I definitely agree with you there. And real quick as well, before you get to this one, you intrigued me by something you said about Devontae Smith, and I have to ask this. Does he play in the backfield at all this year?
Great question. I mean, there were tweets about him and OTAs that obviously Rager was taking some snaps with the running backs, which I kind of expected. He did a little bit of that last year. I wish he would have done it more because I know they brought him on that kind of orbit motion where they, it's kind of like Tyreek Hill where they motion him in the backfield, motion him out, all that type of stuff to keep it brief. Yeah. But we saw Rager do that. Apparently Devontae was working out at those spots a little bit. So I think they're going to use him like however he can get the ball in his hands. They're going to let him go to work. So to answer your question, I think he will be a little bit, maybe not exclusive or not, obviously not exclusively, maybe not a ton, but I think he's going to play there a good bit in his rookie year. So I'm excited to see what they do with him and the concepts they draw up, especially seeing if you have like him and Gainwell in the backfield, him and Sanders in the backfield, that'd be really cool.
So you do see us going with a lot of double halfback sets then, don't you?
I do. I think you're going to see Gainwell and Sanders on the field a good bit. Kind of, I've kind of brought up how Scott Turner, the Washington offensive coordinator, you saw, obviously McKissick isn't a big name, but even Gibson and McKissick were a very good duo when they were on the field together last year. And I think McKissick brought kind of that receiving strength. I think Gibson was a wide receiver until his last year of college, so he can do both. I think you're going to see it a little bit with Gainwell and Sanders just to mix up the looks a little bit.
Okay. Before we move on for any more of that, you want to answer this one? Why is no one talking about Elliott? You know what? Why haven't we brought in any competition for him? Anything. So you want to answer that for us?
That's an excellent question. I think of all preseasons to do it, this would be the one to do it because last year obviously was not a good Jake Elliott year. I think previous years he's been solid enough, and he's usually made the clutch kicks. But last year, I remember me and my friend watching the New Orleans game, literally right over here. I can remember it. I'm like, we're getting hyped, like momentum's building. Second half, we're setting up for that field goal, going to the half with a lot of momentum. And he breaks it off the upright from 21 yards out. And we just collapse. We're like, this is not. And then obviously the Saints start coming back. And we're like, if Jake would have made, we won the game. But that always creeps into your mind. I still remember the Miami game that we lost with that fake punt. I remember that he missed a field goal in that game. And it wouldn't have been a 9-point game. It would have been a 6-point game at the end when we were driving downfield. And that makes it a lot different of a situation. So, sometimes while he makes it in crunch time, there are games where he misses kicks and it comes back to bite us in the butt. So, I think they brought in Austin Jones, who was a former Temple kicker. I think it was him, to work out last year 1 week. It did not do anything to Jake Elliott's confidence because I think he knew they weren't going to replace him with that guy. And, I think Pat McAfee talked about it one time. They brought in some kid to compete with him, and the kid literally had lit a fire under Pat because the kid was he thought he was all that. He came into camp trying to beat Pat out. And, I think the front office probably told him to act that way to kind of get under Pat's skin. But you could use someone like that to get under Jake Elliott's skin, light a fire under him, and not make him feel comfortable anymore, because he knows he's a guy. He knows we're paying him a lot of money right now. He doesn't feel any pressure. So, yeah, great question, Philly Girl. I don't know why no one's talking about him, because I think, there should be competition for him right now.
Yeah, no, dude, he's our opposite Ray Finkel. No lie.
Honestly.
So, all right, no lie though. You hit the nail on the head for the next guy, and that's who we're going to talk about. Kenny Gainwell, man. The expectations for this kid, I love this pick in the 5th round. Like, this was our steal. If anything, this was that steal. And I loved him coming out of college. I remember watching his college highlights and watching him play a little bit. Dude, this kid is dirty. All right, so does he touch this field a lot? What do you expect from him, and where's he going?
I love this pick as well. I mean, when he was available in the 5th round, I remember I actually posted my reaction to it because we were live streaming for a bit. Or actually, we weren't even live streaming that day. We were just on Zoom watching it. But I remember we were in the 5th round, and I'm like, I mean, obviously, Johnson from Indiana, Jamar Johnson, the safety, was still on the board, who I thought was going to go earlier. And then my second guy I mentioned right before Kenny Gainwell got picked, I was like, I cannot believe Kenneth Gainwell is still on the board right now. I mean, he should have been gone a few rounds ago. I think obviously the opt-out was part of it. So I think you're going to have to get him up to speed a little bit because of the opt-out. Like, obviously, he's going to be a little bit sluggish, but I think it's nice they have the preseason games this year. Finally have those after last year. I think that hurt us so much, and everyone too, just not having those games. But I expect him, I don't want to say Nick Sirianni's scheme is going to be exactly like Indianapolis, but I really envision him using a lot like he did Nyheim Hines and him and Reich did. I think he's going to implement a lot of the same concepts that they use. Like, I think you're going to see Gainwell be a big threat in the receiving game, kind of like Miles was his first year. You're going to see him used on wheel routes, whether, angle route, towards the middle of the field, anything to get the ball in his hands. I think he's definitely going to be used on screen plays in the screen game and all that. And then I think you're going to see him used out of shotgun as a runner too. I mean, this is a guy who, he might not have the best acceleration, but he's not afraid of contact. I mean, he's a strong guy. I think he put up 21 bench reps at the combine this past year. He's not afraid to bounce off the tacklers and break tackles. And, he's elusive. He's elusive in the open field. He's not a guy who you're going to be able to just wrap up. So I think, his yards after contact, his, just being able to get past and get into the second level, I think he's going to be dirty there. And, I expect him to really be a key piece in this offense as the year progresses. Kind of like Miles was, I think Miles was he played a lot more than I think Kenny will earlier in the year. But I think kind of like Miles, you're going to see him ease into action. Maybe not. Miles really went from being used a little bit to the end of the year. He's like our bell cow, obviously, in that Dallas game, that New York game before he got hurt. But I think you're definitely going to see him used quite a bit this year, and especially with Sanders' contract situation. I'm a diehard Miles Sanders fan. I love the kid, but running back's not a position that people like to pay these days, and I think you have to make sure that in case that doesn't happen and he doesn't re-sign, you need a guy like Gainwell to kind of fill in after if he's not going to be here after his contract, which pains me to say, but you got to be prepared. What do you think?
I 100% agree with you, man. And with all the power that we actually have in that backfield right now, like, we are stacked with talent. It might not seem like it, but we are.
Yeah.
Johnson
100%.
definitely was a very good piece to add into this backfield.
Yeah.
I love that signing. I was excited when I saw that. All right.
Yeah.
Do you see us kind of going towards a Baltimore-style offense to a point, even though Jalen can throw way better than Lamar Jackson? Okay. I'm going to say, though, we're going to be using the run a lot. Like, and the way Jalen can run, he the last 4 weeks, he even outrushed Lamar,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
Can you see us start using more options, more screen plays, more QB design runs, and just power running in general,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you look at Jalen's first game last year against New Orleans. Like, that team, that New Orleans defense, first off, I gotta say, like, I know a lot of people say it was one of the top defenses in the league, and no discredit to them. I do really like the talent they have there, but I think they were coming off of playing Kendall Hinton, who was the quarterback of the Broncos that week because of the whole COVID thing, who's a practice squad wide receiver playing quarterback. And then they played the Falcons twice. And obviously, Falcons, it's Falcons. They have talent, but not really on the defensive side. So, to be fair, we're talking about the New Orleans defense. But, I still think Falcons, they just find a way to fall apart. But either way, I mean, they were not ready for that read option, and they had Cam Jordan all game out there chasing Jalen Hurts. I mean, you look at also I remember it was a 4th and 2, and we called a little QB power up the middle. Jalen surged forward, got the first down. And I think you're going to see maybe not a complete replica of Baltimore, because I think Lamar is so fast and so elusive that they use that so much. But I think you're going to see Jalen probably more out of shotgun, more so than like pistol with Lamar, what Lamar does. But I think you're still going to see him a lot of RPO. I think you're going to see that. I mean, one play I can remember specifically that Lincoln Riley implemented at Oklahoma was they have 3 receivers on one side, another receiver on the other side. They have the 3 receivers kind of run vertical just to clear out that area. And then you have the other receiver on the other side come around on a shallow cross. Now, the option is to either, depending on the read, I don't know how it's exactly coached, but it's either you dump it off on that crosser underneath, or the quarterback can run a QB draw, depending on what they see. Problem was when we ran it, Rager ran 5 yards upfield and then crossed, which wasn't what he's supposed to do. You're supposed to just go horizontal right away. So little things like that, they're a young team. They're going to execute better this year. But like plays like that, RPO, I think is going to be a big part of it, because I think you're going to, like, obviously Nick Foles ran the RPO, but he didn't exactly have that quarterback run option to his arsenal, right? So I think you consider Jalen Hurts, you consider it's becoming a very RPO heavy league. I mean, Tua has some concerns, but like Tua, from what I've been reading and watching a little bit, he's like one of the best RPO quarterbacks, and Jalen has a similar play style to him. So I think you're definitely going to see it implemented. I think you're going to see it a lot more out of shotgun. I think you're going to see QB design runs, and I think they're going to, especially if he starts to, what I kind of wish with Carson was, I know Carson struggled last year, but I feel like Doug also had a part in not really making him comfortable when he started to struggle and go downhill. I think there was stuff he could have done, but I think especially with Jalen being a young quarterback, because Carson was in year 5, it's hard to give him that excuse all the time. Jalen being a young guy, I think when he gets uncomfortable and starts to struggle a little bit, maybe he throws a pick or two, I think they're going to lean on that run game and kind of be like, hey, let's kind of go downfield. Let's have a methodical drive. Let's get you in a rhythm, quick passes here and there to get you comfortable. And we're going to do some option to this drive. So I think, to answer your question, I think they're definitely going to implement some of the same stuff. So what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a lot of QB run heavy, or kind of a balanced attack?
I have to say, because I'm sorry, this kid's out here lifting 620-pound deadlifts. Like, if that don't tell you he's planning on running, I don't know what is. Like, he's working out his legs, his core to take hits. That's what this kid is lifting 620 pounds for. He's expecting to get hit. He's building his lower body to take those hits, So, no. There's only one reason he's deadlifting, and that's because this kid is planning on running all over everyone. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's going to be tough to bring down.
That's the only thing I can think about. There's only one person that lifts more than that, and that's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah, Saquon's unreal.
I mean, name me one quarterback that can even get close to 620-pound deadlift.
Not a chance. Yeah, not a chance.
Did freeze, or was that me? Hello. Okay, that was Hunter. Okay. Whew. Thought that was me, man. Jeez. All right, cool. Well, hey, six in here. I appreciate you all so much. Please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification bell. Turn it on so you know when I go live or drop new content. I appreciate you all for coming in. Hopefully he comes back here in a minute. But yeah, for sure. Does anybody else have any questions real quick before he comes back in? Definitely put them in the chat. I'll get them up there and see if we can get them answered for you. And here he is.
Not sure what happened. I think my connection went out.
I thought it was me. You good now?
Yeah, am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect.
I got you.
I don't know
All
what.
right. No, it's all good.
All right back to it.
I think you were saying something, right? Or was that me? I forget.
I think I had just finished up, and I'm not sure when I froze.
All right, well, you just want to do the finishing of what you were finishing?
Yeah, I don't know any other quarterback in the league that can deadlift that. I mean, maybe Spencer Rattler when he comes in the league because he's a pretty big guy, but he's not in the league yet, and I don't think he can deadlift that. So
right. So yeah, I mean, in my eyes, man, he's out to mean business. So
yeah, I'm excited.
So that brings me up to our main man, dude, DeVonta Smith. I know we're all excited about this one. I know we all are eyes on this kid. Like he's gonna change this offense. We all hope, and we all believe that. So yeah, tell me, man, what do you think, and what's he got?
Man, I mean, I'm gonna keep it simple. DeVonta he's a football player. Like he really is. He's just that dude. And you just watch him in college. Like the fact that he's able to take some of the hits that he can take at his size, the way he can elevate and go up and catch the ball, the way he just knows how to release at the line and just how to run his routes based on the coverage. Like just the little things, the attention to detail with him is just unreal. And like the IQ is there, the mentality is there. Like this kid is just everything you want in a football player. Like he's not lazy at all. He's got the work ethic. And I think, the praise from his teammates says a lot. And he's not going to come out and he's not really one to praise himself either. Like he's a humble guy, humble beast. And yeah, I think he's just going to be a mainstay here for a long time. I mean, only concern, I think, people get tired of talking about the size. We'll see how it holds up. I think you have Marvin Harrison, who was kind of the same size. That's the big comparison people bring up. He could probably use to put on a couple extra pounds maybe, but at the same time, you don't know how that's going to affect how silky his route running is. Because we heard last year that Rager, it wasn't because he was, getting fat, but he put on some extra muscle. And then they didn't feel like he was the same game speed as he was in college. So who knows? I mean, I think I'm going to leave that up to the coaching staff. I'm not really sure what the best decision is on that. I think they're going to make the decision that's best for him and best for the team on whether he needs to put on some extra weight or not. But I think other than that, I mean, I really don't have any concerns about him. I'm excited to see him go out there and play. I mean, we'll see. I want to see him go up against Bradbury. I want to see him go up against some of the top corners in the league and see how he stacks up this year. So I'm excited. I mean, the Bucs have a lot of good young corners. I want to see how he does against their secondary because I think he's a guy who I think he can go one-on-one with anyone, to be honest. Maybe some days, maybe he'll face a Jalen Ramsey in the future down the road and, maybe he'll have a bad day on there because it's, he's getting used to that NFL star corner. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to get completely shut out of the game plan just because he's getting shadowed by a corner. I think if anything, if he does get shut out, it means our other guys are going to feast.
Yep. And I totally agree with you, man. Listen, DeVonta Smith is from the SEC. The SEC is where the best corners come from in the NFL. Okay, so he's faced the best. He's played the best for years. There's no reason that he should not be able to come into the NFL and be able to produce just as much. Now, granted, I understand the level, the game speed, it's all different. Right. But here's the thing. You guys are worried about linebackers. One, what linebacker can run as fast as Devontae Smith? Like, first you have to catch this kid to be able to
Yeah.
hurt him. You know, like no lie,
Right.
you have to catch him to be able to hurt him. Now,
Yeah.
granted, yeah, well, 5 yard slant across the middle, linebacker could hit him. Yeah, but it's like he said, he's been getting hit his whole life.
Hmm.
Like he knows how to brace for hits. He knows what he's got to do. You know, but as far as production, man, I see no fault at all. Like, there's no reason he should not be able to come out here and get over 1,000 yards his first year and 10 tutties.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
he's already produced against the best in college. Well, the people he faced in college are now in the NFL with him. It's the same
Right.
people. It's just a different level of play. As long as he
Right.
puts in the time, the work, and the dedication now that he did in college, there's no reason he can't win.
Right. Yeah. And I think look at how he played against LSU's Derek Stingley, who's expected to be a high end first round pick next year. I mean, Devontae made him look silly. So,
Right?
prove your point.
Yeah. There's nothing but up for this kid. Like,
Hmm.
he's already played the best. He's already beat the best. And now the best are
Exactly.
with him at this level. So what makes
Hmm.
you think? I mean, it's only a year.
Right.
You know, it's not like it's been 5 years. It's literally last year they played each other. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why anybody wants to doubt that he's going to come in and get shut down. No,
Hmm.
why?
Yeah. I mean, defensive coordinators had all this time, especially leading up to the semifinal of the national championship, to
Yeah,
get two guys on him, and just have more guys on that side, and just the game plan for him in general, and they still couldn't.
yeah,
So
exactly. You know, now that brings me up to our second. And I'm telling you, man, I love this kid, and I have very, very huge expectations for him. Now, I do feel bad for Jalen because it's a huge difference going from a 6'2" Jason Kels to a 6'7" Landon Dickerson. I mean, that's going to be a huge difference at center to take a snap from him, and even
right,
just the throw over this guy, man. Can you imagine that? Like, Kelsey's one thing; he's 6'2", and I
yeah,
believe Hurts is 6'2", right? So they're pretty much
hmm,
eye even, But
right,
this guy's 6'7". That is a huge, complete difference now.
exactly, yeah.
So I love it, but I'm interested to see how they make that one work, my guy.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Our 2020, I think, undrafted free agent, our highest paid undrafted free agent was Luke Juriga, who's one of our backup centers right now from Western Michigan. And the reason he wasn't drafted is because he wasn't the biggest center. I'm going to pull it up. He's 6'3", 298. So, I mean, who does that sound like? Undersized center who was projected to go 6th, 7th round. There many thought that if the Eagles didn't draft, I'm blanking on their 7th round pick from 2020, but if they didn't draft their guy in the 7th round there, they probably would have drafted. It was Casey Toohill. That's who it was. They said if they hadn't drafted him, they probably would have drafted Juriga. So I was really high on Juriga just because of that. Because like you said, with the size difference and everything, it's gonna be tough. But I did think there was a chance we were gonna take a Creed Humphrey or a Landon Dickerson type of guy this year to be that backup center. Maybe even a Quinn Miners who ended up going to the Broncos. That said, Dickerson is an all-world player when he's on the field. And even to the people who talk about the injuries, I mean, there was a point where he started 26 straight games at Alabama. So he has been able to stay on the field at times. I know he's had a long injury history, and that is a concern. It's a valid concern, but I think he's a guy, he's going to be able to stay on the field for the most part, and you're going to kind of be able to ease him in this year. I think he's a guy, I think he could honestly overtake Sayamalo at some point with the talent he has. We'll see if that happens or not, because I think the fact that Sayamalo is our weakest link on the line says a lot about
Yeah.
how good the O-line is when healthy. I mean, Sayamalo is not a bad player at all. He has his penalties and his injuries at times, but he's a pretty solid player. But yeah, I think you look at Dickerson, he's got versatility on the inside. Like, his technique is so sound. He can get out there. He's athletic. He knows how to get out and block in space. Like, he's a mauler. He's a guy, anyone in
Yeah.
his way is not getting past him. He is going to maul people. I remember just seeing him. I think I saw him. A guy tried to come in and blitz through his gap, and he had the leverage. So the guy was coming on the side, and Dickerson just takes him and has the leverage and just like throws
Yeah.
this guy to the
I
right
remember
tackle.
watching that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
exactly.
watching
Like
that. He's a monster, man.
exactly. Like he's got so much ability and talent in both the run game and the pass game, and I cannot wait to see this kid play because I think he is definitely going to be if Kelsey leaves this year or even if Kelsey stays another year. I mean, I think Dickerson could start down the road. I mean, he's going to be an unreal player. And I think even if there are injury concerns, like we have now that we've had these guys get experience, like Herbig, like Driscoll, like we have some depth back there. Like last year was
Yeah.
an unreal amount of injuries on the offensive line to where we had to have Jamon Brown starting a game, which I'm not even going to get into because I'm going to
Yeah.
get mad talking about him. But I mean, you talk about Herbig, you have you have Driscoll, the left tackle
Yeah.
position. The fact that Mailata is even in the conversation to battle after being a seventh round pick a few years ago is a testament to Jeff Stoutland. I mean, we have a lot of good guys around there. We have a
Yeah.
lot of depth right now, and I think you have a lot. Like I said, Jariga. Like I think he's a guy who can play. He played. There were times where they went 6-0 line last year, and he was the sixth guy who was
Yeah.
off the line a little bit. So I think there's a lot of guys who can play. I'm hoping that Matt Pryor's not going to make the team this year. I'm not a big fan of him. There's a couple other guys like Sua Opeda I don't think is a good depth piece. But,
Yeah.
hey, I mean, at the worst, the fact that they've even started games, like compared to some other teams like third, fourth options, that's a lot better than they have.
Yeah.
So I think even if Dickerson goes down, we're going to be all right.
No, I agree, man. I mean, listen, I think very highly of Herbig and Driscoll. Like, they're our future linemen for sure.
Yes.
I 100% agree with that. And the fact that they already have NFL experience at their age,
Right.
fuck yeah. I'm all
Yeah.
for that. That's only beneficial. You get what I
Right.
mean? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, in a way, the injuries last year helped us for the long run,
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm all for that. And like I said, Driscoll and Herbig are your future. I
Exactly.
100% agree with that. I really like Herbig, man. Like, I saw some of those screen plays he had to get out on and get down the field for. Dude, he's a big boy and he can move.
He can, and he
Like,
lost some weight this offseason too.
yeah, yeah, man. I really like Herbig a lot. But
Yeah, and I think you look at like the potential of the future offensive line. Like we can talk about Dillard in a bit, but like let's say Dillard wins the job, then you could have and Mailata can play right tackle. I like him more at left, but let's just hypothetically say like this is your future young offensive line. Like you have Dillard at left tackle maybe, or Mailata, and then you maybe have Herbig at left guard, Dickerson at center, and then you have or maybe even have say Mal at left guard and then Herbig at right guard, and then you have Mailata. Or no, I was thinking Herbig left guard because I have maybe Driscoll plays right guard or right tackle, and then maybe Mailata plays right tackle, or whatever. You have all these young guys who could possibly be a starter.
I would definitely have Driscoll at the right tackle, Herbig at right guard, because that's where they played last year, and you don't want to mess with that chemistry, especially if those guys can become Brandon Brooks and Johnson, and they can get that really good chemistry, and can continue to develop it, and then you add Dickerson in there at center, and then left guard. Man, I would not even be. All right, say Dillard wins the left tackle spot. Throw Mailata in at left guard then.
Yeah, I think Mailata can play interior.
Yeah, that way you have Dillard at left tackle, Mailata at left guard, and then you have Dickerson in the middle, Herbig at right guard, and then Driscoll at right tackle. That lineup right there, build that chemistry, let these young guys build. Dude, that is a very good fucking stout offensive line right there. It really is.
Sure.
There's a lot of potential right there in all five
100%.
of those.
100%.
So, listen, we've heard a lot about Williams, man. All right, supposedly he's Aaron Darnold. Elaborate on this shit, please, because I'm very confused. Because when you make statements like that, man, you got my attention, but that's bold, and I expect to see Aaron Darnold then.
Yeah, right. I think people got to pump the brakes on him a little bit. I'll be honest, I wasn't like the biggest fan of the Williams pick. I think he is. Let me say this, preface with this: he's freaky athletic. He's got the measurables. Like he's a guy who's played inside, outside, and he played. Problem with him last year, I think, was that he lost weight so he could transition to D end, and then because of the injuries they had there at I think it was Louisiana Tech where he played. Because of the injuries they had to move him back inside, and he was at a lower weight class at that point. So that's why he might not have had the flashiest year last year, but his measurables compare to Aaron Donald. He's an athletic guy. He tested very well, but at the same time, I think you got to look at Aaron Donald coming into the league, like his first few years versus like what we should expect from Williams. I think Williams is going to be our third guy, right? Obviously, Cox and Hargrave kind of adjusted to the scheme as we went on last year. It's going to be hopefully a similar scheme this year that he can be familiar with. You have those are going to be your two guys regardless, right? And after that, it's kind of like Ridgeway, I think, is fourth guy if healthy. I like Ridgeway, but he's not usually healthy. But Williams will probably slot into that third spot. I don't think he's ready to take on that Aaron Donald type role, because I think the reason I was a little upset was because we had Benjamin St-Juste on the board, who ended up going to Washington, and Ifeatu Melifonwu, who actually ended up going much later in round 3 to the Lions. And those are two guys who I really watched a lot of film on going into the draft, and I was very high on them. Obviously draft, it's very hard to project, so I could be completely wrong, but I think those two guys have a lot of potential. And obviously you don't always go off positional need. You consider who's on your big board, but I don't know. Some people had Williams high on their big board, but I know a lot of other people kind of had him. Maybe he's a good day 3 pick early on. So I was a little iffy on it. I still think he's going to contribute. I still think he's going to be a good player for the team. I don't know if he's going to be an Aaron Donald level player, though. I think that's a lot to put on him. But I hope to see him play a little bit of DN, play on the interior a lot too, and make an impact. I wish the best for him. I mean, he's on the team. I think he's a very talented individual, and he's an Eagle. So I hope he can be Aaron Donald. I do, but I just don't. I don't quite see it yet, because I don't know if he was. I'm not a scout, but he wasn't exactly as high on my board as other people had him. But I still think he's a talent. I think you could still argue he's a third round talent, though.
Well, see, I what made me mad about it is I really wanted Tay Gowan, and he was there when we were picking. And I thought Tay Gowan would fit very well with JG and his style, and that was a need.
Yeah,
if you wanted to move on,
he had a lot of chances to get him.
Yeah, and it's like, man, if you really wanted a DT, you probably could have moved back up into the third and got Williams if you really wanted him that bad. He probably would have been there even a little bit later on. So in my eyes, it's like I would have taken Gowan and then traded back up. You could have used like a 6th and a 5th if you really wanted Williams that bad. That's what I'm saying. But in my eyes, Gowan would have been a way better need. I would have felt better going in the week 1 with Gowan than I would have McPherson.
Yeah,
but that's my opinion.
Yeah. I definitely. I think a lot of people were, and you said McPherson too. I wasn't a big fan of that pick either. I think he's a guy who, I didn't look too far into the corners, but I didn't hear his name too much around, the middle rounds really. And, I hope he can be successful. I think he's a guy who, I think he's going to be more of a slot in the NFL, maybe a zone corner on the outside. I don't want to throw him into that right now, but again, like you said, you had Tay Gowan, you had other guys on the board who were, ended up falling a little bit. Even Kelvin Joseph, he went to the Cowboys in the second round, and Asante Samuel Jr. I'm not saying we should have traded up for either of them, because you want to hold on to your back end picks, but there were guys around there. I mean, I'm not saying I'm glad we drafted Dickerson. Let me clear that up. But there's guys who you could have possibly looked at who some guys ended up falling to the third, and then so on. Obviously.
Oh yeah, no. I 100% agree. That was one of my things too, man. Is I wanted Jock with the second round, or at least Asante Samuel Jr. Somebody like that.
Shocked JOK was on the board at that pick.
And once again, if you wanted Dickerson, you could have traded back up into the second and get him. The dude is coming off an ACL tear. Not many teams were probably going to go for that in the second round, so he would have been there. You could have traded back up and got him if you really wanted him that bad again. But that's what I'm saying. There was moves they could have taken, in my eyes, and been a little smarter about it. Taking needs over wants. I get it. But, dude, we needed a linebacker and we needed a corner. You had Jock and you had Asante Samuel Jr. You chose to skip them both. Okay? And then in the third round, you had Tay Gowan. and you chose a defensive tackle that we don't need right now, unless you're planning on trading Fletcher Cox and we don't know about it. You know,
Right,
but
right.
I mean that the DT we could have drafted next year. You don't even need that this year. You have 3 first-round picks next year. You could have taken a really
Mhm,
good DT in the first round. Why'd you need to
mhm.
do that? You know, it's just needs over wants, and that's why I said
Mhm.
there's some things I'd change about it, but all in all, I'm not upset. You know,
Yeah,
it's better drafts than what we've had in the past, but there is things
agreed.
I would have tweaked a little bit to make it
Right.
a little better.
Definitely. I mean, I think you look at the draft class and it's just like there is sticking to your philosophy to an extent with building from the trenches, right? Like that's how he won the Super Bowl. It's an important part of the team, but
Yeah,
and I think you look at they I think when they traded back from 70 to 73, it was because they lost out on Alan McGill, I want to say, from North Carolina State. But like you said, like there were some guys like Tui Pelotu was not projected to be a 6th round guy. Like he was projected to go a little bit earlier. Now I think he probably fits a little bit better as a 5th, 6th round pick with his situation. But there
yeah.
were other interior guys you could have gotten if you really wanted that. And Milton Williams, freaky athletic guy. I'm just always very cautious about drafting testers at the combine because I think when you do that, like there's some guys like DK Metcalf, like he's a guy, he was such an insane tester, like you knew he was going to be successful. And he had success
Yeah,
in college too. And he wasn't even that great of a route runner and he dominated. So,
yeah,
but at the same time, you also have other testers who it's like, John Ross, for example. I mean, John Ross ran the fastest 40 time ever. And, you can make the argument maybe the change of scenery will benefit him. Maybe then utilize him
yeah,
correctly in Cincinnati, but he still had a lot of opportunities to be involved out there as that third guy next to AJ Green and Tyler Boyd being in the slot. Like he still had opportunities and he wasn't on the field very much and he didn't really produce at a high level. So maybe he will with New York. Maybe I'm wrong, but just to use him as an example, you have a lot of these guys who test very well and then don't pan out. So I think Milton,
perfect,
again, I think he's going to
perfect
contribute.
example.
But
Let me ask you this:
yeah,
without Tyreek Hill's speed, is Tyreek Hill Tyreek Hill?
not at all. No.
So why can't John Ross be another Tyreek Hill? He's very fast. Not many men in
Yeah.
the NFL can catch him. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm agreeing with you. John
Yeah.
Ross should be able to be a Tyreek Hill for the Bengals. He should have been. He's very fast. He ran like what, a 4.2?
Yeah.
But
hmm
why were you not successful? Oh yeah, because you forgot one major important factor. You need to be able to catch the
Right.
ball.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And in addition, I mean, Tyreek Hill also just the details on the route running too. John Ross, like it
Yeah.
just seems like he's a guy who was just kind of ended up being a deep threat. Didn't really seem like they trusted him to be a route runner either. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Now, before we get into the coaches,
hmm
I wanted to ask you. I see, a lot of similarities this year that emulate 2016 and 2017.
hmm
Okay, and you nodded very fast because you know where I'm going with this. I feel,
hmm
you don't have to be smart to see what Howie Roseman's doing at this point. Okay, and I'm
Right.
going to point it out to some people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in any way. That's fine. I agree. But Anthony Harris is your Corey Graham. Wilson, he's your Nigel Bradham. Okay. You got, well, it all remains to be seen on the cornerback situation, what we do there. But if
Right.
you bring in Xavier Howard or Steven Nelson, you could say that's an upgrade to our corner that we got that year
Darby.
for
Right.
17. Yeah, Darby. And then you have Kerrigan, who is Chris Long.
Yes. 100%.
Okay, 100%. Johnson, you could consider LeGarrette Blunt in a certain way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Smith is Troy Smith. You got the speed, lengthy receiver. Travis Fulgham is Alshon Jeffrey, and Rager's Nelson Aguilar.
hmm
So you can kind of see the similarities here, people. How he's trying to pull off the same fucking stunt he pulled off in 16 and 17. I mean, it's very So let me hear your thoughts about that, my guy. Because I thought
Yeah.
about this a couple days ago, putting it together, how he's building this. It's like, Howie, you're trying to do the same shit all over again with different people.
Right. I think you could even make the argument that Andrew Adams, who we got from the Buccaneers, could be your Corey Graham because I think he's very much so
Mm-hmm.
he's very much so like a backup safety, but I think he's a third safety type guy. He can definitely do a little bit on special teams. Like I think he's a guy who he didn't play a ton in not Buffalo and Tampa Bay last year, but obviously Tampa Bay had a stacked secondary. He's played a lot in his past before, so I think you're going to see Andrew Adams play a key role as a backup, and Kayvon I think will play kind of a third safety role too at times. But yeah, I think you could even make the argument Anthony Harris is almost like he's not going to play the same way. He doesn't have the same play style as Malcolm Jenkins, but almost similar to that of how electric
Yeah.
of a playmaker he has been on the back end. Obviously, last year Minnesota secondary suffered as a whole. They had a terrible, terrible secondary, and I think Harris suffered as of that or as a result of that. But I think he's going to be just fine. I still think he's got it in him. It's a 1 year deal too. Like I think that's another thing is that with Jonathan Gannon, he's been such a quick rise in the coaching industry that they're bringing in guys who are going to fit a scheme right now on short-term deals so that if we need to replace him down the road, we'll be able to. But for right now, we can bring in guys like Eric Wilson, like Anthony Harris and Nate Muradors and Shaquille Taylor, who have familiarity with his scheme and can kind of help other guys get up to speed. And I'm not saying Muradors or Taylor will make the team, but at least in training camp, they'll be helps. But yeah, I mean, I think you look at Wilson too. Like, I think he's a guy like very, very good in pass coverage. Very good. Even when he's not making plays, he's taking away throws by being in the right spot at the right time. I think run stopping, he did have a lot of tackles. A lot of them came kind of down the field because they would run the ball at him. He'd get bullied a little bit. But either way, he's going to be your starter. Like he's your main guy. He's your big free agent pickup at the linebacker position. Like I think you look at how Bradham was when he was in Buffalo, it does compare very similarly because Bradham was also kind of a big piece to Buffalo's linebacking core. And then you mentioned offensive side of it. I mean, new head coach, new quarterback who were, quarterback drafted early. You have that. I'm sure you were going to mention. I mean, Kerryon. I think he even brings, LeGarrette was very much more specialized in that power back role. I think Kerryon can receive a little bit. He can pass block very well, which I think Corey Clement got blown up in pass protection a lot last year. So did Boston Scott. It's going to be nice to have Kerryon on the field because he can do all three things at such a solid level that you're not tipping your hand. Like when Boston Scott and Corey Clement were in there, they knew that that's an extra guy who's probably not going to pass protect. And even if they are going to pass protect, we're going to send guys at their way because we're just going to go blow them up, right? Sanders, I think, took a little bit of a step back in pass protection, but Kerryon being there, I think, is a big part. And, I mean, even just looking at, the tight end room too, you had, was it Ertz and Burton that year? And now you have, we'll see if Ertz is still here. That's
Goddard and Rodgers.
Goddard and Rodgers. You've got even Jack Stoll could probably be kind of that Brent Selleck role that year from just being a good blocker and also being used a little bit in the receiving game, sneaking him out off of blocks and stuff like that. Sirianni likes to do that. And, offensive line is pretty similar. And we had a left tackle problem that year. Hal Vaitai had to start after Peters went down. And we have I don't want to call it a problem right now, but we have a good battle. So it's not a certainty right now. And, you look at the defense. Like I love the Ryan Kerrigan, Chris Long thing is like just so accurate because they're both, kind of back end of their careers, rotational guy. They're not going to be asked to do as much as they were earlier in the career, but they can still they will come in and change a game on a dime with a strip sack or with a ball batted up into the air. I mean, this team, they're definitely building the same way. I think also you just look at the cornerback position too, like not a ton of guys there, but that's because they're going to build from the trenches out. And that's going to be their philosophy is to make it easier in the corner so that they don't have to invest a massive like trade into a corner. Like Darby wasn't, we had to give up some stuff for him, but not like a massive amount of draft capital. We gave up Jordan Matthews, who ended up kind of fading out of the league. And I think it was a third or second maybe. But you get another pickup like that. And then next year you see where you're at and maybe you're ready to kind of make a run. I mean, we surprised everyone that year. No one thought, I think we all thought 2017 we were going to be a playoff team. At least I did, but I did not believe NFC Championship Super Bowl type team until that obviously that win streak was big, but I think once we beat that Rams team, especially the fashion we did it too, I was like, even though we lost Carson that game, I was sold on the team. And I don't want to say I wasn't invested because I was invested the whole year, but like in terms of believing, I think that game, like was kind of the turning point for me where I was like, this team can win any game and compete in any game. And I think even this young team, I know this is long-winded, but like even this young team right now, I think they can compete this year. I mean, maybe the Bucks and Chiefs, they probably won't be ready for that level of competition, but who knows? I mean, anything can happen any given Sunday. That's what I love about the NFL. And this team is they have a lot of guys who want to fight. I mean, you saw the spark that Jalen Hurts provided last year. I think they can go in there. What if they go 8-9? So what? If as long as they compete, you learn how to close out those close games. That was another thing. 2016 and 2017. We were not good at closing out games in that 2016 season. 2017, we had a lot of close games down the stretch, and we learned how to close them out. No matter how we did it, no matter how ugly it was on that Christmas night versus Oakland, we got it done. So, I'm excited, man. I mean, it just gets me excited thinking about it. Who knows? Maybe we won't win a Super Bowl in 2022, but I hope so. I mean, I'm gonna hold out hope.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, man. It's just too many similarities to ignore. And the only positive about the Kerrigan thing is, dude, Kerrigan, I believe, in my opinion, has a lot more in his tank than what Chris Long did when he got here.
Oh yeah.
So that's only a benefactor because we only had Chris Long for 2 years. We could have Kerrigan for a little longer than that, which will help, in the long run.
Exactly.
So, we talked about the coaches as we talked about these players, and if you have a little more time here, I just want to dabble into a couple of them.
Go for it.
So let's start out with somebody we haven't talked. Not many people do talk about. Let's talk with the running back coach Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that, especially since we let go one of our legends, Deuce Staley, for him? What's this transition look like, and are you comfortable with it, and do you think we'll actually get better from it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Jamal isn't a guy I've dove into, or I haven't dived into him too much, but I think either way, no matter who we brought in, it's going to be a big drop off from Deuce Staley, right? Deuce is the man. He has groomed like all our running back. Even just the fact that Boston Scott is even in the conversation for roster spots every year now, I think is, you give a lot of credit to Deuce Staley for turning him into what he was. And, I think you're going to take a massive drop off no matter what. But I think looking at the positives, you kept Jeff Stoutland, who is the run game coordinator, who can work with Jamal Singleton, right? Mm-hmm. You still have this offensive line. You have Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard, who are kind of those veteran guys. Obviously, Kerryon took a pay cut, so I think because of that pay cut, like he's definitely going to make the team. I think he's on a $470,000 contract because of his injuries. But obviously outside of last year, I haven't seen him. I think he can stay on the field. But point being, like he can almost be a coach, but kind of like what LeGarrette was to those young guys that year. You had a Jay Ajayi that year too, which was great to add him into the mix. A young guy who had experience. We kind of have that. Miles has had a few years under his belt now. So I think Jamal, I don't think he's going to have. Don't think there's going to be a ton of pressure on him, but also with the way Sirianni, I think, has coached the running backs on the teams he's been on too. I think he's going to be able to do a good job, especially teaching them a receiving game. Like Sirianni's been a what's it called? He's been a running backs coach, or not a running backs coach. He's been a wide receivers coach before. But I have an article up here about Jamal though, and some of the guys he has coached. So here's some of the names he has. He has Nyheim Hines on his list, who obviously I'm hoping we can use Gainwell similar to him. He coached Joe Mixon, Gio Bernard, Marshawn Lynch, Marlon Mack, Frank Gore, and others. So like these are big name guys he has worked with in the past. So it's good. Like you have a lot of names there who they're not any shabby NFL players. Like those are guys who have had success in the NFL. And, I'm interested to see what he does. Cause again, he's a guy outside of that article. I don't know too much about him, but I'm interested to see how he meshes with the rest of the coaching staff.
Now, can you look something up for me if it's not on there? Is that Frank Gore of old or Frank Gore of prime?
Yeah. Great question. Let me pull up what Jamal Singleton's track. I want to see where he coached Frank Gore at.
Because if he did it at old, dude, that's freaking impressive.
Very impressive.
Frank Gore was the beast in his 16th and 17th season, even for his age and stuff. So if he coached him then, I feel very comfortable with that.
Yeah, you said his 16-17 season, correct?
Yeah.
So he coached that year. Those 2 years were the exact 2 years that Jamal coached.
That's awesome, man.
In Indianapolis.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, then I can dig that, man, because you know what? Frank Gore was a monster even at the end of his career. So I can, so that makes me feel good because if he can have Frank Gore looking like that at the end of his career, then he should have a
Right.
field day with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I remember, and Frank Gore spent a short stint with the Eagles before he signed with
Yeah.
Indianapolis.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think he ever played it down for us, though, did he?
He was here for about 20 minutes and then
20 minutes, he was gone. I don't even think he ever put a jersey on, man.
No, I think the Eagles made like a thank you Frank Gore post or something on social media, which was great. But
so my next coach, then, we're going to stay on the offensive side. I'm really intrigued with Steichen, man. We saw what he did with Herbert last year. We saw what he did for that Chargers offense. Man, if he can just bring that to Jalen Hurts, dude, it's going to be awesome because Herbert is a fine specimen. Like, I will not lie. I love watching that guy play. I really do.
Yeah.
But I don't think Herbert has the mobility that Hurts does.
No.
So, I'm interested. You saw how dominant Herbert was in that offense. If that offense is even similar and you add Hurts into that, it can be even deadlier. So, let me hear your thoughts on that, dude.
Yeah, I think Steichen, it'll be good for him too, because I think, he also took a lot of heat from Chargers fans for not really being like a lot of people didn't want to give him credit for Herbert, and they wanted to kind of talk about some of his flaws that he had, which he does have some issues from what I've heard. But I think him being able to kind of, Anthony Lynn, I want to say Anthony Lynn was a defensive coach, but I'm not 100% sure on that because he just got canned because I know they brought in Staley this year.
I'm pretty sure that's who it was.
Anthony Lynn is an offensive coach. So Steichen, I think just him being able to kind of like, obviously Sirianni is going to be the play caller, so he'll be kind of be able to take a back seat and influence like where he finds it best. Because I think it's just nice to have an offensive coordinator after the whole debacle last year with all these chefs in the kitchen and everything, and like you just didn't know who was bringing in what idea, what was Scangarello's job, what was Marty Mornwing doing. Like there were just so many names out there, and it's just nice to have one set offensive coordinator. And I think it sounds like Steichen's going to kind of bring a good balance in terms of the run game to this team, which I think will be good for a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And I think, again, Sirianni being the lead guy and then kind of feeding off of what Steichen can give him, I think it'll be beneficial for both of them, especially if, like a lot of Chargers fans and analysts were saying, if there are some issues with keeping him there, hopefully he won't have as prominent of a role here to where he will have that much pressure on him. He'll be able to, again, kind of take a back seat, but still contribute his ideas and implement what he wants to in the offense where needed.
What's going on, Philly the podcast? Thank you for stopping in, my guy. I appreciate you so much, dude. My mentor right there.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, man, no, I agree with you. I mean, I am very intrigued with the Steichen hire. I think it's going to benefit Hurts in a very good way. Just hopefully, man, these guys, it's a young group of guys, they're out to prove stuff. They're out to prove that they're the best young minds in football. Hopefully they can just all work together and, put a really good game plan together every week. Because, like you said, there's so much talent on this team. There's so much that you can do with everyone on this roster. We could have a really deadly offense. You just got to do it right. So hopefully they don't overthink things too much,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And then, this one right here, man, as soon as we hired this guy, I don't know why, but when people questioned it afterwards, if Wentz was gone after this hire, I knew he was gone as soon as we hired him because you're not going to hire a man's uncle and keep Carson Wentz. Like, that makes no fucking sense. I mean, they pretty much answered the question for you before it was put out there. I mean, let's be honest. You're going to hire Johnson to coach Wentz? Jalen Hurts' uncle?
Right.
It was staring you right in the face the whole time. And the reason that I knew it is because exactly what you're doing. I laughed as soon as I saw it. I was like, yeah. He's gone. Instantly. That's as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, there goes Wentz. Like,
exactly.
You couldn't have told me any clearer. And Even if you would sit there and say, "Oh no, Wentz is still our quarterback," I'd be like, "You're full of shit, bro. This
Yeah.
guy grew
Mhm.
up with this dude. Like you,
Mhm.
okay, you keep Carson Wentz, but that's still going to be your QB coach. You're only asking for drama at that point." So
Right.
that's what I was saying. Like as soon as we hired this guy, I knew exactly what was happening.
Mhm.
But great for Jalen Hurts though. Uh,
Definitely.
okay, this could work two ways. It's either going to work great or it's going to be bad.
Right.
Okay, and the bad way is because he does know Jalen and his
Yep. Mhm.
family. He doesn't want to disappoint the kid. It might make him soft on him. I don't know.
Similar
I'm
to
not.
the
I'm not.
whole
You know what
whole
I'm
Press
saying though. It
Taylor
could be
thing.
good or bad. It could be good or
Right.
bad.
Right.
I don't
Mhm.
expect him to be soft on Jalen because he
Right.
is
Right.
family to the kid and he knows that to push him and this is his dream. He's going to be harder on him than possibly anyone. You
Mhm.
know. So I believe it's a great hire, and but like I said, there could be a negative to this. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Brian Johnson's resume. First off, with the whole like soft thing, I mean, yeah, hopefully not, because I mean, you saw Press Taylor and Carson Wentz were obviously buddies off the field, and that did not end up going too well. So that's why Press
Yeah,
Taylor is back in his old role as I think he's again a quality control coach in Indianapolis, and he's not directly working with Carson anymore because I don't think they
yeah,
want to deal with that bad juju. But yeah, I mean, Brian Johnson. Just looking at his resume, obviously he coached Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. I remember before Dak got to the league, like I remember I was a massive Dak Prescott fan. I bought like Mississippi State apparel because I love this dude so much in college. And then, of course, he gets drafted to the Cowboys, and I hate him now. But, you know, looking at what Brian Johnson did with him, they were the number one ranked team in college football when Alabama was in the SEC. And obviously, they lost to Alabama. But the fact that they even got there and were in, they're competing in a high stakes game against a team like Alabama. And I think just it's a credit to Brian Johnson and the work that him and Dak Prescott did because the guys around Dak Prescott that year were elevated. I mean, you had, I believe his name was Josh Robinson, who did not really end up being an NFL running back, who just
yeah,
elevated. Daronio Wilson was the name who he was also a basketball player at Mississippi State. He elevated his game. That whole team elevated their game around Dak Prescott that year. And as much as I hate Dak, I think he's carried that with him and that leadership quality into the NFL. And I think I remember watching a video on Brian Johnson where he talked about the leadership qualities and things he looks for in a QB and what he wants them to be. And a lot of it was exactly the things that he kind of worked on with Dak Prescott and that I think he will work on with Jalen Hurts. I mean, Brian Johnson at Utah, I mean, Utah had one of their best seasons with him as a quarterback. Like he's been there. He has experienced it as a quarterback before in the big
yeah,
moment, like these guys. He coached even at Houston. He spent 1 year there with the Houston Cougars. He coached De'Aaron King, who's going into his final year with Miami right now, who people expect to be pretty good. And he coached Kyle Allen, who went into the league and started for the Panthers for a little bit, started for
yeah,
Washington a little bit this past year. I mean, those aren't guys who are supposed to be big names. And he worked with them. And then, you look at him at Florida. I mean, the transformation that Kyle Trask had over his time there is pretty freaking impressive. I mean, the fact that
yeah,
he was drafted as high as he was, even after that suckish bowl game he had against Oklahoma without Kyle Pitts. I mean, he still really had a good transformation under Brian Johnson. So this is a guy who has experience working with the quarterback position. He has experience playing it. He knows what it takes to get the job done. He knows how to prepare them. And, obviously Jalen, I think, is doing the right thing. He's not only working with Johnson, he's working with his own guys like Quincy Avery in the offseason to get ready so that when he sees Brian Johnson is ready to do more with him and is able to kind of elevate his game and they're able to move quicker so that it's not just like, I got to camp, like, what do you got to work with me for? Instead of like, obviously Jalen's coming to camp. He's
yeah,
prepared this year. So I think I think they're going to be a really good duo. I think, like you said, like Brian Johnson's going to push him. He knows what's best for Jalen. He's worked with Jalen before, probably. I mean, I think he's going to get the best out of Jalen. So I really, really love the Brian Johnson signing. Even if, for whatever reason, Jalen doesn't end up being the guy down the road. I mean, I would trust Brian Johnson with another quarterback who's in here. If Jalen gets hurt, like I trust him and Sirianni to prepare the other two guys in Flacco and Mullins if need be, if it comes down to that. So.
Would you agree though? When we hired him, you knew what was happening.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, the Colts. We almost tried to like bring the Colts to Wentz in a way, but then at the same time, when you bring in Brian Johnson, you're almost contradicting yourself by doing that. And not to mention, like Mike Groh went over the Colts. I mean, Carson was with him when he was the offense coordinator. Like it's not like he didn't have guys over there who he was close with, who he wasn't still thinking about going over there too. And it wasn't like you were bringing. I mean, Jason Michael, like Carson's never played with him before. He's the tight ends coach for us, obviously, but like he's obviously been here, or he never played with Carson. He never coached with Carson or anything. Like there's no connection there. So like they did try to bring the Colts to him, but like he wanted to go with Frank Reich ultimately, and Brian Johnson was kind of the cherry on top of the whole thing.
So you bring up that point there. He wanted to be with Frank Reich. We all understand that. Now, Nick was brought here in the sense that Wentz was going to stay here if they brought him here, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it really had nothing to do that they just wanted to go down the Frank Reich tree this time, whether Wentz was here or not.
I think that's part of it because I remember when Sirianni got here, I was very confident in his ability, even though he hadn't coached before. I mean, Andy Reid wasn't a play caller before he became a head coach, too. There's plenty of guys. I think a lot of people say, oh, he's never called plays before. I think Sirianni's going to be just fine. He coached in San Diego. I mean, he's been in an offensive coaching staff there. He's been in the offensive room in Kansas City back in the day. Matt Castle, in fact, had his best season when Sirianni was his quarterbacks coach. But, I think he's going to be fine play calling. But I think I said when we got him that whether it was getting Carson Wentz back to what he had been before or developing Jalen Hurts, I trusted this guy with either of them. So I think part of it was trying to fix Carson Wentz, but I don't want to say the Eagles thought the same as me because I don't know what their process was like, but I think they also believe that regardless if Carson still wanted to go or not, and if they were going to end up getting rid of him, if Jalen Hurts was going to be the guy, he would be able to get the best out of him, and they would be able to find out what Jalen Hurts is. So I still think that even though Carson's not here, I still think that there's a lot of reason for Sirianni being here. And also just it's similar to Peterson. It's not too big of a change, but in terms of, when to use certain concepts and all that stuff, like I think he's going to bring that change and just that fresh start that they need with this team and just utilizing players of their strength that they need right now that Peterson was kind of starting to get a little, I don't know how to say it. He was getting a little bland with his play calling towards the end of his time. Maybe that first week with Jalen, he pulled some stuff out of the bag, but didn't really end up lasting. I think Jalen was forced to make a lot of throws at the end of the year that he didn't want to have to make. So.
Well, and I have a question for you too. Because a lot more people than I do, and your ears get out there a little more. The whole thing with Josh McDaniels before we signed Nick, is it just something Nick said to make them change their mind? Like, is it just like what truly happened with that, man? Because I believe we all can say we were pretty sold Josh McDaniels was the next head coach, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question, man. I mean, Josh McDaniels is he's one of those interesting guys. I did my research on him before we hired a head coach. He was definitely in the mix, and I think the big thing with him was that I don't know exactly why we didn't end up hiring him or why we went with Nick. I think the meeting with Nick was definitely a big part of it. I think he just really impressed them with the energy. I think when I went back and looked at Josh McDaniels when he had that 1 to 2 year stint with Denver as their head coach, I think he got fired midseason one year. I dug up some old interviews / podcasts with some of the players that played there, and I remember one of them said that he had never been more prepared in terms of game plan to play a game, but he had never been less excited to go out there and play a game because Josh McDaniels just wasn't a guy who was, in terms of like energy and being a player's coach and getting the locker room ready, like he was just so hard on them and so like down to business because of how he had been with Belichick. I think Belichick's done a little bit better job of being relaxed because I remember I talked to Damaris Johnson, who spent like a year with the Eagles. He spent like a little bit of time with the Patriots. He said the Patriot way is not exactly how everyone describes it. Like he showed up at a meeting 9:55, a 10 o'clock meeting. Everyone else showed up like 30 minutes before the meeting or 30 seconds before the meeting started. Like it was much more laid back than people describe it to be. But I think McDaniels kind of brought over that element of like more so just do your job. And that is part of it. But there's also an element of letting players, be themselves in the locker room, letting them, have that enthusiasm and have that energy and stuff and not being kind of just like a slave to the game every day. And I think, McDaniels, sometimes when guys get that second opportunity as a head coach, they benefit from it, right? Like I don't want to rule out that he would have been the exact same way. And I think there's a reason that he got that long look, but maybe, he's also been a guy, he's been in head coaching searches. He took that Indianapolis job and then he was out right away. Then Reich got it. So I think the Eagles might have been concerned about that. They were kind of like, all right, well, we'll go with Sirianni. He's a high energy guy. We think he's going to bring over a lot of stuff that from Frank Reich that made us a good team. Not that, not to take any credit away from Doug, but Frank Reich was a great offensive coordinator, obviously. So I think a lot of that was part of it, and just the locker room culture, and maybe the fact that maybe they didn't trust McDaniels to stay here if he took the job and not go back to New England, because I think he does really like coaching in New England as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, man. And you know what? Once again, I do appreciate you for taking your time out with me here, man.
Thank you for having me.
This. I love talking sports with you. We DM a lot. We talk all the time, so it's just appreciative that you even did this for me. Like, no lie, man. I do. I love talking sports with you, man. But I have my last three coaches here. I'm going to combine them all into one. That way we can just get it done and we can end this up. All right.
Sounds great.
So you got tight end Coach Michaels, you got linebacker Coach Rallis, and defensive line Rocker. I am so excited for these guys. Okay. Yeah. One, Coach Michaels, tight end. He made Wilcox look really fucking good over there in Indy, and their second string. Goddard has way more talent than Wilcox. And I believe Rodgers is better than their second string they had over there. See, I can't even remember his name. It doesn't even matter that much.
Right.
So, on that notion, I believe he is a great addition to this offense, man, because we might even see Goddard hit a new level this year because, like I said, the skill set Wilcox has compared to Goddard does not compare. So, what do you think about that one real fast?
Yeah, I like Jason Michael a lot. I mean, I think you look at, Justin Peele was a really good tight ends coach for us too. I liked him a lot, and I'm excited to see what he does in Atlanta with Kyle Pitts. I really am. But Jason Michael, I mean, you said it. He worked with Wiley Cox. He worked with Jack Doyle. He worked with Trey Burton. All three of them were like a very good – They none of them were stars, but they combined to be a very good trio last year. And obviously, we know Trey Burton. We've watched him play before. But like you said, Goddard is better than – even I would say if you combine two of them, I think he's still better. Like he has such a high ceiling, in my opinion. He can do it all. Like he's literally in terms of blocking, he's top two. He's right. It's him and George Kittle. Like, and then there's a big gap between other blocking tight ends. And then in terms of receiving, like he's easily a top 10 guy. And I think he hasn't reached his ceiling yet. I think we're going to see him reach it this year as the top guy. And I think Michael, like we have a lot of projects behind him and Ertz and Rodgers. Like those are the three guys right now, but you have a Hakeem Butler who is switching from wide receiver to tight end. You have a Tyree Jackson who's switching from quarterback to tight end. You have a Caleb Wilson and Jason Kroom who are kind of unknowns at this point. And I think if you see one or two of those guys turn into a potential third string at some point, that's a success in my mind. And even if they don't, it's not a slight against him. They're all projects. We don't know what they're going to be, especially Tyree Jackson and Hakeem Butler switching positions. But I'm excited about Jason Michael. I don't think we're losing too much, and I think he's going to do a good job with this tight end room.
I agree, man. I do. I'm stoked to see how that works out. And then that brings us to Rallis, man. Listen, this guy could suit up tomorrow and play. Like, I'm not even playing, man. This kid is only 27 years old. He's really young. He's still in shape. He is so motivated, high energy, and all this kid does is learn football. That's all he does all day long is learn football. So this is only going to help our linebacking core, dude. Like, our linebacking core was average last year. He can take these average guys and make them even better. So, let me get your take on Rallis real quick.
I'm 100% with you, man. I am so excited to see Nick Rallis. I mean, Ken Flajole, I think he has a good track record, but it was getting to a point with our linebackers where we didn't have talent. He also got to work with Kendricks, Bradham, and Hicks, so probably looked a little better than he actually was. And Flajole was kind of on the back end. And last year, with all the young guys we have, we just needed someone like Rallis who can kind of relate to them, right? He's a young guy, like you said. Like he can kind of relate to what they're going through right now, learning everything. We have a Davion Taylor who's very athletic, but needs to kind of get the football IQ and the instincts. We have a Sean Bradley who was really good in his limited reps last year. I think you saw him stuff James Conner at the goal line, and on that 4th and 2 sack that Josh Sweat got last year, it was because Sean Bradley took a throw deep to Manuel Sanders away. And, he had limited reps. What can he do in more reps? I think you have Edwards, very good run stopper. You have Singleton, who was our leading tackler. You have, obviously, Wilson's going to be a guy who, he's experienced. But all these other guys, I mean, they're young. They're very young, and there's more to see with them. And I think Rallis is the guy, like you said, I mean, he could suit up today. I believe he wrestled too. So he's a guy who can definitely come in here. He's going to be able to get the job done, I think, and get the best out of young guys. We'll see to what extent he can do it. But, I think Rallis is definitely, in terms of the young coaching staff, I think you need a balance between guys who have experience, but you also need young guys like Rallis, especially for this linebacker group, who can just, get them ready to play. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to bring a lot of height to the team, too, in the defense. So I'm excited.
Dude, I am so with you, man. Like, no lie, give this guy a fucking jersey. I'm not even playing. Like, I want to see him play, dude. Like, he has so much energy. And, like, I hope he can just, like, admit that into our linebacking core, man. Like, if they can even just get half his energy, dude, and they can go out there and play like that, oh, my God.
Exactly.
Now he's not playing due to a neck injury, right, Rallis? Did he hurt his neck in his career? And
probably, yeah.
Because there's no reason this guy should not be playing, man. Like, no lie. Like I said, he's always in a playbook. He's always studying and trying to make it better. And if you have a coach that young trying to do that, imagine what he's holding that linebacker core to standards to.
Right.
He's like, listen, I'm here learning. You can do the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, he was, I believe he was on Minnesota's staff the past 3 years too, right? So like, he's a guy, he's going to, that's why Gannon brought him over. I mean, it's going to be similar with implementing the scheme and all that. And I'm excited to see it.
Exactly, dude. And then my last guy, the one dude I am the most excited to see, and I'm not even playing, dude, Tracy Rocker. Oh my God. Like, dude, I hope this dude transformed Barnett into a beast. I hope he makes, dude, I'm not even lying. I cannot wait to see Tracy Rocker with this defensive line.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm with you on that. Tracy Rocker's a dog. I mean, this dude's just, he's literally, you don't find many guys like him who have been coaching the defensive line position for like what feels like ages on end. I mean, this guy has been coaching the position forever. He knows the position. And look, I look back at some of his college track record. You're not going to find a ton of like big names on there, but again, like I feel like you look at the production his guys got, he got the most out of the guys that he could. And you have to keep in mind with college, you're going to get some guys who don't really care as much. They're at college for their scholarship. You're going to get guys like that who just don't have the work ethic to make it up there, right? But the guys who did care, he got the best out of them. And I think he's a great addition because the past 3 years, I feel like we have had a very strong defensive line. But I don't feel like they've played up to their maximum potential because we've had three different defensive line coaches the past few years. So I want to say last year, I'm blanking on who it was, but I can't even remember the three guys who it was. But the past few years, we've switched every year. Is the point being? And Rocker, I think, can, like you said, you talked about the stability earlier in this video. He's another guy down the road. He's a guy who can bring stability, even if for whatever reason there is a head coaching change down the road. I think he's going to be one of those Moorhead Stoutland type guys who he will stick around here. If he wants to, of course, but he could stick around here and still coach with any coaching staff because he's just that guy. And I think he really is going to get the best out of Sweat. I think he's going to get the best out of Barnett as he heads into his 5th-year option. And hopefully Taron Jackson too. Hopefully he gets the best out of Milton Williams and all these guys. I think, there's no better coach for them to be working with right now.
Yeah, man, no lie. Like I actually have a ballsy prediction, and I said it last week, and there's a lot of people that have held me to it so far and busted my balls over it, but it is what it is. I actually have Derek Barnett leading in sacks this year for this team at 12, and that's all because of Rocker. Like I have that much faith in this guy. Like you said, he is a dog, he's a beast, and he will break these men to get the best out of them, so I am so excited for this. Like, out of all the coaches, man, Rocker is definitely hands down my guy. If he can
Yeah.
get Fletcher Cox in the double digits again, that's a success. You know,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, 8 sacks, $20 million is not worth it, man. I'm sorry, it's not.
Mhm.
This guy needs to
Yeah.
get back in the double digit sacks. So
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
interested. Let's do this. I
Yeah.
wish
I can't
football
wait.
was tomorrow. I do.
I can't. Hey, 2 more weeks and we'll be able to go to those open practices at training camp. So
Yeah, I know, right?
can't wait.
But hey, man, I do appreciate you. We are at a 1 hour 40 minutes exactly. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on my show. I appreciate it, man. You've been a great friend behind the scenes and stuff, and everything you do for everyone on here, and the knowledge you bring to this team, and about this team. It's just truly amazing, man. So, once again, real quick, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll end it up.
Hey, well, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's an honor to be on your show, and I appreciate the friend you've been behind the scenes too. I'm excited for some Eagles football. Definitely going to be fun to talk during the season too, and
Hell
hopefully
yeah.
before the season starts, we'll talk again. But yeah, I want to say thank you to you, man. Like it's been cool seeing you grow so quickly, starting in the Eagles content creator community, and I mean, yeah, like I said, like 126 subs already, and you've only been doing this for like a month. Heads up or shout out to that guy who was trying to bash you last night for having his 33K or whatever and that whole thing. But yeah, thank you again for having me, man. I mean, it was great to talk birds. You know your stuff.
And he froze.
I think I froze up. I'm back
Yeah,
now.
you
Like
did.
I've
There you
seen
go.
you in like Philly Notions chat and like other people's chats, like in the live chat, live stream, and all that. And then to see like people like you and Lindy start their own channels and grow so quickly, and Big Play Slay, and just to see how far the content creator community is coming is really cool, and it's getting a lot more attention right now too. Like the content creator
Yeah.
community is really growing in general. So it's only going to go up from here in the season, and I love sharing my knowledge. I love hearing what you have to say, what other guys have to say, because we all feed off each other and learn from each other. Like we all got different points to
Yeah.
bring up, and that's what I love about it. So you guys can find me at Philly Insider Podcast, InsideTheEagles.com, and yeah, I appreciate you again for having me on, man.
No problem, my guy. And listen, everybody, please go sub up my guy. He knows his shit. No lie. Very knowledgeable. But listen, I appreciate everybody coming in today who came in. Jordy Fighter, Philly, the podcast, Big Play Slay, Sports Talk, Let's Go Birds, Philly Girl, Coach Dante, Jordy Fighter. I think I might have said you already, but I'll say it again. Eagle Slayer 95. All you guys, Bird Gang 31, everyone. And shout out to my partner, Philly Foothills, today. He just hit 950 right on the max.
Oh,
So, he's only got 50 more subs to 1,000. So shout out to you, my guy. Congratulations. Appreciate you. And like you said, man, I do feel like I have been blowing up here a lot lately. And,
yes, sir.
it's due to the success that I've had behind me and the people I've had behind me. And, I got a podcast with Philly Foothills on Saturdays. I'm getting ready to start one
Go.
with Bird Gang 31. That's going to be coming out starting on Sundays here soon. I try to do collabs with a bunch of people all the time. I've gotten so much from so many creators. I just want to give back, and that's also why I started doing my
Yeah.
sub Mondays. So people who want to reach 100 and they only have 65, I get people that come on live with me, some of my friends, and we give shout outs and we do tweets and we get your channel out there and we try and get you to reach your goal. And that's just me giving back to the community because, like I said, y'all have done so much for me. There's people out there that it took 5 months to reach 100 subs. You know,
Yeah.
and
Right.
if they had the backing that I had with you guys, it wouldn't have been so hard. So,
Right.
it's just things like that that I'm trying to give back. Uh,
Same.
and just having you on, man, that helps me out, and I appreciate you, and you're only helping me. So, that's just another reason for me to give back. So,
Definitely. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so
no
much.
problem. But, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is AK Eagles, and this is the Eagles Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night at 6 p.m. for Sub Mondays. Definitely going to try and see if we can help out some people get to their goals. So, Until next time,
Sir.
appreciate you all for all your love and support. Love each and every one of you. Love my fuck you crew. It's all but love, man. So until tomorrow night, this is AK Eagle signing off. I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.